Welcome back to another episode of We Are Human. I am your host, Elijah, and today I am here with the one and only, my good friend, Alfredo Corral, also known as 1-3, all the way from Hudson County, Weehawken, New Jersey.
Yes, sir, represent.
And he brought in the Modelos. You started out with Change. That was like your debut project that really started solidifying your career. So talk about the transition and the journey leading up to that.
So I started my first rap writing and stuff like that 13, and then just doing it for fun. And I used to always freestyle over songs jokingly. That was with high school, which I felt was trial and error. It was practice
absolutely.
grounds, So that was addict. Yeah,
that's right.
So I remember doing that, handing it out to everybody. Like I said, all of that was practice grounds. That was learning experiences to at least where we're at now. And not saying that where we're at now is the end all be all. We're still learning.
And on top of that, you're also figuring out stuff about yourself and what kind of music you excel at.
A year or two of really just working on songs 300 of you could ask J Con, I have 500 songs in vault still to this day that I still make up to this day that are just there as ideas. And so then those 2 years happened, and then I was you know what, I feel I have an idea where I'm gonna go, and that's when I did Change. Then Dirty Blonde right after, and even 3 the Hard Way I felt was life crisis moments, identity crisis moments.
Mm-hmm.
So Change, I'm on the cover, I'm shaving my head.
Yeah, I remember that.
And I was running with that for a while, and I even would bounce back here and there doing that. And then Dirty Blonde was man, I want to do something different. I want to be the rappers now, and I dyed my hair blonde.
When you really release these projects, they kind of became more solid. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The composition, the producers that you were working with, it really starts to sound more like you.
Exactly, 100%. From Change on, then I started looking more in-house. Always I knew that just like me from those early stages with you, J Con, with Dre Rodner, Saint Sunday,
right.
All the guys that I worked with over in Jersey. It just became more of a thing where I just wanted to stay with them because I knew we were all learning. And all kind of in the same time, even though we were different, we're all getting better. So we were we need to put ourselves on. So where I felt everything kind of started for me, where I started seeing a shift where I was okay, I think this is going good, is when I dropped Butter, the single for Change.
Yeah. And
that's still one of my most well received songs and streaming wise and everything like that. And I still get love from that song to this day, and just didn't stop from there, man.
You have to know, my favorite song by you is Drain. Even before I added the guitar parts, just the song itself, that's produced by Dre Rodner, correct?
Mm-hmm.
I feel it captivates you as an artist really well.
Drain is also around those times is where I started going down that route of those type of vibes. I was I don't want to be a typical auto-tune dude. Mm-hmm. Even though I felt I was doing it pretty early, we were always messing with it, but I felt I always wanted to how can I play with these vocals but give them vibes, and then live instrumentation on it, all that stuff. I was just and we've done that a couple times, even recently with Only the Midnight Watches.
Mm-hmm.
And shout out to Ryan Jones and All in Your Head.
Yeah.
With that song too is probably my second most,
and people
received.
thought it was a sample.
Yeah, they thought that Ryan was a sample. They thought, they were oh, where did you get that from? On the beat. I'm no, that's actually Ryan. But so how that was is that I wanted to go with the lo-fi vibe, and that was a voice memo that she sent, and she kept sending a bunch different ones, and the voice memo sounded really good.
I know that you lost a really, really good friend of yours, basically your brother.
Alejandro Franco, my best friend, brother. It was the first friend that I ever met really in my life. We were in first grade, and we clicked because of our birthdays. I told him hey, my birthday's October 18th, and he was no way, mine's the 20th. Back in 2018, it was Black Friday. He was killed, and it was due to street violence. That has affected me. It still has to this day. Obviously, I feel like it's apparent, talking about this. It's always still tough for me. It's still brand new. You know what I mean? Really depressed, like very depressed. And got to a point that, like, thanks to my other brother, Justin, he pulled me out of that slump. He knew that I was down, and he was there for me the whole time, like crying, like every night. Like, if it wasn't for him, bro, I don't know what. And he pulled me out of that in Jersey because I was going nowhere. Then at the time, I wasn't working. I was broke. I was just like not giving a shit, dude, honestly, about like life. I started working on Only the Midnight Watches. That whole project was just something personal for him. It was an ode to him. Like, that was something that I was gonna do regardless. Like, I sacrificed months where I could have dropped a single, but that was nowhere near in my like atmosphere, like in my world at the moment. Like, it was somewhere else. I felt like that was like the most different, the most like experimental, the most out there, but the most personal too. And it was just like a gift to him. Loss has been a big thing with me in my life, you know what I mean? Like, I've lost my great grandmother that like was really like dear to me, and she passed away on my dad's birthday. I lost my uncle. In like Hispanic terms, in a sense, not really your uncle. He's just like the best friend of like your mom or something like that.
You're always around the house, always in like
the
exactly.
But like, that's like, you know what I mean? And like real like great guys. So he was best friends of like my mom and my father. 4th of July, he was killed. He got hit by a drunk driver. Shout out to all my family in New York, Tia Cruz, Pete, Franco, Abuelita Rita, Los. Loss is definitely a thing that, just a reoccurring thing that,
It's I mentioned it to a friend the other day, like, like your parents or like my parents are like, they're always here, or like they're always very present in my life. So like slowly, like subconsciously, you kind of like start dismissing that and you neglect them a little bit, because it's kind of like you're always there, like you're not going anywhere, and you kind of forget that shit can happen like this any moment. I had to reverse that thinking process.
My life is not perfect. Like, I've been through so much shit in my life. Like, loss is not even the one thing. Like, I've been through it all. Like, child shit that, like, don't like to get too deep, but like, I went through that like for some years, like around like 7 and like 9ish. And I was actually what I could be real about, though, is that's honestly only as of recently, like in the past 2 years, I was able to open up about that. And a lot of people don't talk about that either, because it's hard, because I was programmed my whole life like I'm a man, and not a lot of men will come out and speak on things like that. And that has definitely took a toll in my life, where later on, like, I rebelled and started smoking and selling and stuff like that at 13, at a young age, like, because once you go through something so like traumatic that you don't understand as a kid, like, I feel like that's, your life just starts going fast, to the point where like I was just like I got like caught up and I got arrested for like hopping a train, and I had weed on me on like 14 years old, and my mom didn't know what to do with me, and that actually, believe it or not, forced her to move me here. I have two different extremes of like families, right? I'm Dominican and Cuban. My mom's side is Dominican, my dad's side is Cuban. And so that's another thing too, like, so with a mental health thing and stuff like that, like in Hispanic households, not always like, it's
a completely different like household. This is how you're supposed to live, and these are the rules, and this is what we believe, and it's like this, and that's it. Like, there's no open view or open mind to like any of that.
Going back and forth with that, like the rules and like the way things go on one side and then the other side, which doesn't get talked about a lot, like going back and forth, was honestly like weighed heavy on me. It was always like really hard to like please like both sides. And then like if I came back from the other side, they didn't like the other family and and like talking shit about each other. They have
completely two different views too at the same time.
Yeah, and I'm just in the middle of that. Like, what can I do? Where one side, where like you can see me now and I'm fine, the other side looks at me and with the other stuff I've been through in the past, like I'm a criminal. That's another thing too, is the whole like perception thing.
Yeah.
People might look at me because I have the tattoos on my arms and my leg, my fingers, my neck, and go, oh, he's a criminal. I got a little slash on my eyebrow. After a while with those extremes and going through all of that, I said, fuck this, man. Like, I love both of my family equally, and I want them to just accept me for who I am.
Yeah.
Those two extremes were so extreme to the point that I was just my own person. I just became me. I'm not like, I am them, and I share those things, but I'm like, my Dominican side of reviews, they don't have tattoos, they don't do that, and my Cuban side either, they don't, you know what I mean? Not much make music or anything like that. Like, I'm that one guy who was like, oh, okay, do this, black sheep, like in the family kind of thing. That's just all reasoning to why I am who I am, why I'm here talking to you right now, looking how I am, how I speak. Sometimes I'm like lost and I drift away, my mind goes somewhere else, like I can't like focus sometimes, and a lot of that shit is just because of added stuff like that and stress, which then even eventually gave me chronic gastritis, which is what I literally still go through to this day. And it even was at a point where like I lost like my job around the time I was like in a relationship, lost that too. I was like a bum. I couldn't do shit. I could barely move. And it was to a point where I had to keep going to the hospital like here and there to check if I didn't have any developing ulcers. And then if they did, it would have to be burned out.
Jeez.
And I had colonoscopies and endoscopies and all that stuff. I would have to do that all the time. And that could have went to like Crohn's. So like, I really just had to take care of myself. Now, I'm not saying I'm perfect. I cheat a lot, and I do, like, you know, I drink sometimes still. I'm not a perfect man. After a while, it was like that gas bubble of like stress. I had to let go. I had to release, and which I still had to recently do, like not too long ago, where like I'm still like trying to let go of demons, my past, and not letting my past hold me back, because that's my biggest, I guess, issue that I have. Yeah. And then like I guess the family thing too, like how they see me and how I'm perceived and stuff like that, you know. And like I said, if it wasn't for Justin, wasn't for like you, people like that got me out of slumps when I was in those things, to remind me like why we're doing this shit in the first place, or when you and I have conversations, and when you have your doubts and stuff like that. All that shit in my life is fuel to go. During the Only the Midnight Watches recordings, the things we were watching was like heavily influencing our creativity. We were watching Suspiria, I think, First Reformed. We were watching heavy films because honestly, like I said, like I still couldn't leave the vibe of that project. We were aiming it to look like trailers for films. So if you remember in the promo, if you remember in the promo too, like for the story, we had like posters. So we were making like posters of Only the Midnight Watches, like if they were a movie. Mm-hmm. And Justin had like all the titling, like the states and everything, like where like this was like, you know, done and like made an influence, New Jersey, Florida, and California. And you know, we had the whole like thing, the production and everything, and like that's what we were aiming for. And honestly, that's what I still go for, like the running across with the flare gun for flare gun. And then we had Lone Wolf, where Justin was spinning the camera around and I'm just like on the edge, kind of like a wolf, like just like looking down, hair blowing out. I like to say that like for my projects, they're not like mixtapes or EPs or anything. It's like scores of like my life at the time. It's like a soundtrack.
No, I love that. I think that like with me, when I have made music for a little bit, because I don't really consider myself an artist, because like I don't put out content as often, but like when I do make something, it's a reflection of what I'm going through and what I have to say in that moment. So I do admire that, and I like that about like your music, because it's evident, you know, like that it represents like different stages of your life and where you are.
I'm always just trying to also change too. Like I like like being versatile. I like showing people that like, okay, you enjoyed Change or you enjoyed Butter or Way Back, but I could do more than just rap. You know what I mean? I don't have to always rap all the time, and I can actually give you guys real pieces of music. You know what I mean? Real, like, it's all about sound to me. Lyrics too, but it's all about like how everything cohesively sounds together. You know what I mean? And if it doesn't fit a certain vibe, then who knows? The only like mixtape kind of thing I did was Smoke back in December. That had some old songs, had some newer stuff, and I was like, it was kind of like a playlist, like a package, like here, and it had like a lot of tags and like, you know, who want the smoke, like old mixtape era. So shout out my guys and everybody that like, all you guys that like honestly have made a lot of these things possible, man, like the movement and stuff like that. Like if it wasn't for all that, those PG moments, those proving grounds where we were in the beginning, you know what I mean, just figuring out what we're doing, you know, like I feel like we've all came a long way.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
And honestly, like I'm very proud of every single one of you guys and everybody. And I mean, it's just all I wish is just more continued blessings, you know what I mean? You know, if God could let us prosper more day by day, then you know what I mean? Nothing makes me happier than learning from our mistakes and moving forward, man. That's just what life is about.
Yeah.
That's how you go up. Sleepy Hollow out now. New single coming out real soon.
What date?
I can't tell you that.